What's down, people, and welcome back to another episode of Ghetto Gospel. So where we left off at. Last week, we talked about your boy Abraham bowing out. We also talked about Ishmael and what happened with his kids. The last thing we talked about was Isaac, his 2 kids, and what a birthright is. And now we caught up. This week, chapter 26, take a little turn away from Isaac's sons and their family drama and tell us about what's going on with him and Rebecca. So the first thing it say is that it was a famine in the land, just like the one that happened a while ago back in Abraham's time. Y'all remember when he went down to Egypt and told everybody that Sarah was his sister instead of his wife? And it say that Isaac went to King Bema of the Philistines. I told y'all we was gonna see him again. At this city named Gerar. Now some of y'all detectives out there, y'all know who y'all is. The ones who fall asleep watching First 48 and be solving murders in y'all dreams. Y'all probably saying, I know this King Bema dude ain't still alive. And you probably right. His whole name, Abimelech, actually translates to something like, my daddy is king, which almost sounds like it's a title that just get passed down. Kind of like calling somebody Pharaoh or a Caesar or a president. That ain't their name. And for y'all map folks, or y'all that's just visual, a lot of folks who's smarter than me think the city of Gerar was somewhere up in here. So verse 2 tell us that the Lord told Isaac to stay up out of Egypt and live where he told him to live. To stay in the land he was in as an alien, and God was gonna bless him and give him buku offspring and confirm all the stuff he said to his daddy because he listened to him and did the stuff he told him to do. Sound a lot like what he told Abraham, right? But you gotta imagine that Abraham must have told Isaac about the stuff that happened with him, right? He wouldn't make the same mistakes his daddy made, would he? Well, let's see how far this apple fall from the tree. So Isaac stayed in Gerar, and it say that when the men pressed him about his wife, he was like, oh, that's my sister. Yeah, she my sister. Because he was scared the men of the land was gonna kill him because his wife was bad. Now fam, not only is he doing the same thing his daddy did, but he using the same line, literally. Now if you research this a little bit, you'll realize that in his culture, it was kind of normal to call somebody sister like that. It was kind of like,
brother, bro, brothers, bro, brothers, brother,
is today. But I also get the impression he knew that that's not how it was gonna go over with them local folks. So when he had been living there for a hot minute, it say the king looked down from the window and saw Isaac and Rebecca playing around and entertaining themselves. So the king sent for Isaac and was like, yo, fam, that's your wife. How you gonna say that's my sister? And Isaac was like, because I thought I might die over her. And the king was like, why would you do this to us? Somebody could have smashed your wife and you would have made us guilty. It don't say this in writing, so... But it sound like King Bema learned some stuff from his daddy too, cause he obviously know what the risk is messing with Isaac's wife. I imagine that story would have been too memorable not to pass down. So King Bema warned all the people, if anybody put their hands on this man or his wife, they getting sent up. Now something I can't help but wonder is this. If both Abraham and Isaac was worried that somebody was gonna kill him and take their wife, maybe it was a good reason for that. That ain't the kind of thing you just randomly pull out of thin air. But I ain't been able to find nothing that explains what was going on that might have made them think that. Alright, so I'm gonna pick up the pace because I'm running out of time. So verse 12 say that Isaac planted seed in the land and got back 100 times what he planted. And the Lord blessed him and he got rich and kept getting richer until he was super wealthy. He had sheep and cattle and slaves, but the Philistines he lived around ain't like that, and they started hating on him. 2 quick things. I'm gonna just be honest. I ain't too much like how I just said sheep and cattle and slaves, like they on the same level. Yes, this was happening in a different culture. The other thing is, I don't know how much stuff Isaac started out with, but the last chapter said his daddy gave him everything he owned, and unless he lost everything he inherited in the famine, which I guess is technically possible, he just been building on top of what he already inherited. So the Philistines started plugging up that man's wells that his daddy had dug up. Y'all remember the piece about how important water is in the desert. And the king himself was like, man, get up out of here. You way too powerful for us. So Isaac got up out of there, moved to the valley, and unplugged the wells that his daddy had dug up. Then his servants dug a new well and found more water. But then the local folks was like, that's our water. So he called it the contention well. Contention is basically drama between folks. So then they dug another well, and folks argued with him about that one too. So he called it the stress well. So they moved around and dug another well, and then folks left him alone. So he named it the well of wide space. Kinda like,
but now we got a crib with open space.
because the Lord made space for them and they gonna be fruitful. Now don't miss this. King Bema asked that man to leave because he was too powerful for him. And that was the king saying that. And instead of using all that power to say, nah, I ain't going nowhere, Isaac decided to just move around. And he did the same thing with them other little shepherds he ran into. You ever seen a dude who only act hard because he went out and bought his first piece of steel? Yeah, Isaac actually had enough juice to do something, but he decided to just move around. That's what's called being meek, keeping your power under control. The other thing is this, that whole idea of Isaac's people moving around because other folks feel like this town ain't big enough for the both of us, is something you're gonna see happening in here over and over again until the end of the story. So from there, he traveled up to that well where Abraham made the 7 sheep treaty with King Bema the first time. And the Lord showed up that night and appeared to Isaac like, you know who it is? I'm the God of your father Abraham. Don't be scared. I'm with you, baby boy. I'ma bless you and give you buku offspring because of my boy Abraham. And Isaac built the altar there, called on the name of the Lord, and put down roots right there. I mean, he put up his tent and dug a well, so about as close as you could get to putting down roots for somebody who gotta move around to keep his flocks fed. So now that he kinda strayed, guess who show up? That clown King Bema and the commander of his army. And Isaac like, what you doing here? Remember you hated me and told me to kick rocks? And King Bema was like, my bad, bruh. We could clearly see the Lord with you. Go ahead and make a covenant with us. You don't harm us, just like we ain't harmed you. We ain't been nothing but good to you. We sent you away in one piece, and the Lord then blessed you. So Isaac put together a big old feast, and they all ate and drank, and when they got up in the morning, they made that covenant with each other. And after that, Isaac sent them on their way, and they left in peace. I guess that means they ain't caused no drama on the way out. And on that same day, one of Isaac's servants ran up on him like, we found water. And so he called it the well of the oath. An oath is pretty much a covenant. And that's what folks called that city from that point forward. Now, it could have just ended there, but this chapter ended by giving you a preview of next week. And the last thing it say is that when Esau was 40 years old, he took 2 wives. And the wives he took was local chicks. I guess he decided he ain't want to marry one of his cousins. Go figure. And it say that his wives gave his parents all kind of grief. I guess that's part of the reason why Abraham was so focused on making sure Isaac ain't married one of them local chicks. On some level, he must have knew something like that could happen, and he ain't want no parts of it. So that's it for this week. If you don't know Jesus, but you're trying to get to know him, go and click that first link in the description down there. I'll see y'all next week, and as always, peace, and I hope y'all people straight.